In midday, let's quickly delve into our next conversation of the day. Has the lockdown endangered wildlife? Well, on Friday, 4 men suspected to have killed a famous silverback mountain gorilla named Rafiki on the 1st of June in Bwindi Impenetrable National Park were paraded before Grade 1 Magistrate His Worship Vueni Raphael and later remanded in Mbaro, Ruchiga prisons. Now, Rafiki was the head of a 17-member Mkuringo family. Rafiki's death has reportedly cost the country millions in revenue and has shone a light on conservation during this time of COVID-19. To speak to us about this and more, we have Mr. Samuel Mwanda, the Executive Director of Uganda Wildlife Authority, who joins me right now in studio. A very good morning, Mr. Samuel.
Good morning, Romeo.
First of all, what has the death of Mr. Rafiki, who was only 25 years, cost us in terms of revenue here in Uganda?
At the moment, thank you very much. At the moment, we would need to look at whether we are losing this group entirely or not, which we don't know, because it is still early days. There is no silverback in the group, and because there is no silverback in the group, this group may either disintegrate or may receive another silverback that may take over the group.
The females might run away.
The females might join other groups, yes. And if they join other groups, then we've lost the group. And if we do lose that group, then we are losing about 600 million Uganda shillings annually.
So number one, we've lost leadership.
Correct.
Okay, number two.
Number two, the group may disintegrate. And if it disintegrates, then we've lost that revenue that would have gone on for another 25 years, which is about 600 million Uganda shillings annually. So it's quite a bit of money. But also, there is a possibility that another silverback may join and the group remains one, or one of the three blackbacks in there that they are young males might take over and actually manage to keep the group together, in which case the loss might be limited.
And experts contend that a wild silverback might take over, and they say that might spell another kind of trouble for the officials at Uganda Wildlife Authority, because you must have, you might have to habituate these animals, because it's a wild silverback. It's not used to human contact.
Right.
Help us get through that process of habituation. What does it take? The money, the costs, and the time.
If we are habituating an entirely new group, probably with 10 individuals, and we are looking at getting them to a point when they can be visited by tourists. That requires us to do that process on a daily basis for 2 years before it's ready. And these 2 years are really to do with having a group of about 8 people, at least 4 of them visiting this group every single day, and staying with that group for between 3 to 6 hours, so that the group gets used. And you start by staying as far away as 20 meters, and you start reducing that distance with time, because when it's not used, when you get to 20 meters, they will run away.
Yes.
And so you need to keep far until they get used to you, and you reduce that distance up to 7 meters, which the tourists actually stand at when they are viewing these gorillas. So in terms of cost, we are looking at about 600,000 by 8 people for about 700 days for 2 years, 700 days. You're talking of quite a large sum of money, which is in billions. I think about 3.3 billion. But that, remember that when you start getting 600 a year, and you can do that for a group literally forever, because they keep, even if one dies, the others that are born, you're able to recover that money in about 5 years. Yes.
Now, Mr. Samuel, has this lockdown made animals more vulnerable to poaching? And as Uganda Wildlife Authority, have you let down your guard as far as operations are concerned? I mean, we had Mr. Byamukama Felix and his counterpart, Wampa Bemba Evariste, going into Bwindi Impenetrable National Park, killing the animal on June 2nd, but then you took some few days, and then you reported about his death on June 12th. We would also like to understand why you took that long to report to the country and the world about the passing of Rafiki, and whether or not you think this lockdown has made our animals in the wild more vulnerable to poaching in that regard.
That's a number of very interesting questions.
Indeed.
And let me respond like this. First, to tell you that no, Uganda Wildlife Authority has not let its guard down. Interestingly, we actually have now more people able to go and patrol and ensure that these protected areas are safe. Because all the people who are responsible for tourism now are not working on anything. So what we have done is moved all the guides. They are part of the law enforcement operations. So they go out, they patrol, they support the law enforcement. But the trouble we have is that there are Ugandans who were in Kampala, who were in Jinja, who were in Mbarara, who have moved away from those towns and are gone back home because they have lost a job.
Yes.
And because they are down there and they are looking for ways of making some money, some of them have resorted to poaching. And that has created a problem. And then, in a place like Bwindi, there's a lot of tourism going on during the normal time. And there are people who are porters carrying bags for the tourists. There are people who are in crafts, who are selling crafts. There are those who, even the farmer is selling food to the lodges. And those people now have no income. And so they are tempted to go back into poaching because many of them had poached before. So we have that situation that causes us quite a challenge.
Yes.
And then there are fellows who say, for us, meat is, wild meat is more delicious than than goat and cow. And so we have that also as a challenge.
Of course, in the house of Felix, we found some wild hog meat.
Exactly.
It seems like it was a delicacy for him.
Exactly. So that creates a big impact in our protected areas because people are trying either to find some meat, they are trying either to make some money, and so there is a clash. And we've seen an increase of about 20% in the amount of poaching. Also, a number of people have been arrested because we are working. And these who are arrested are being arraigned in courts of law. So that is one aspect.
Yeah.
But then you're saying, why did we delay? Normally when we have a death, especially of a gorilla,
Yes.
we have, first of all, the gorilla was lost for a day. Then when we realized it was lost, we went and looked for it. When we found it was dead and had to determine what the cause of death was. Because if it's a natural death, then it is easy. You let the world know, Rafiki died, it was a natural death, and it's okay. Or if it's a disease, then you need to take action on that disease so that you're able to ensure that it doesn't spread to the other gorillas. So in this case, it was none. It was actually a killing. And so the postmortem showed that it had been speared. And so we went into overdrive to try and find what the cause is. And we sent out intelligence and finally picked this guy and his accomplices. Now, we did not want to publicize that information because it would alert
the suspects,
and they would be more cautious. But because we took our time,
yes,
we were able even to find them with meat that they would have disposed of.
Indeed.
With their poaching equipment that they would have disposed of if we had alerted everybody that our suspicion is that it had been killed.
So it was a wise one.
It was, yes.
So has the COVID-19 lockdown exacerbated activities of poaching in Uganda, and has it made our wild animals vulnerable to poaching?
Yes, it has, because as I mentioned, we are having more poaching happen. We've seen a 20% increase. Are the wildlife vulnerable? Yes, but I can assure you that Uganda Wildlife Authority is up to the challenge, and we will ensure that we manage the poaching and stop it.
Let's talk about investments in the parks during the COVID-19 lockdown. How has COVID-19, the lockdown itself, how has it affected your activities as Uganda Wildlife Authority?
On average, we were making 7 billion Uganda shillings a month. And that money is no longer coming in. And when it doesn't come in, then we cannot build accommodation for our staff. We cannot buy new equipment. We cannot do a lot of stuff. And so it has quite an impact on our activities. Luckily, over the last 2-3 years, I should mention that Uganda Wildlife Authority government has allowed it to collect revenue and use it at source. So we do not take it to the consolidated fund. And because of that, over the last 2-3 years, we've been making a surplus, and we've been keeping it aside. And that is now what we are drawing on to ensure that we can run the activities. And we have been working closely with our supervisors, the ministry, and our board to ensure that we plan appropriately for the little funds that we have. One, to ensure our staff are paid on time and full pay, so that they're able to continue working, but also look at focusing on the key activities that we need to do in the park, do law enforcement, and also address human-wildlife conflict. So that is what we are focusing on now, and we hope that in the next 3-4 months, tourism will start reviving again, and we'll get the money we need to do more investment into the protection of the wildlife.
Indeed, sounds well, Mr. Mwanda. But let's talk about the issue of lockdown easing. Who gets into these packs and who doesn't? Help us understand. Because the president also sanctioned domestic tourism to begin. Yes,
you can get into the park if you can get where the park is.
Yes.
But what we've done as an organization, we've developed our standard operating procedures. What do you do if you get to a gate that allows you into the national park? And those procedures are what our staff are following. One, we will ensure that you wash your hands. We will ensure that your temperature is normal, and so on and so forth. And then when you get in there, you will be allowed to view the wildlife as you wish, or take a walk depending on what you have gone to do. Now, there are those particular parks that are on the borders where people don't have access to. If you don't have access because of the national guidelines, then unfortunately we can't receive you. But if you are one of those who can get the permission to drive into a district like that, we can allow you in. You pay a little fee and you go and view the wildlife and enjoy yourself. What is not open now are what we call the great apes parks. Yes. So you cannot view gorillas, you cannot view chimps. Those ones we put them off until such a time when we think it is safe, because remember, they are close to us, they can easily contract the diseases we have. And we want to be sure that we do not transfer that to them, because gorillas, we have only slightly over 1,000 in the whole world, the mountain gorillas. And so we do not want to lose them. Uganda has a half of the gorillas in the world. So we don't want to lose them, so we want to protect them as much as possible.
And of course, like you mentioned, we have over 1,000 mountain gorillas all over the world. Half of those are right here in Uganda. What will it take to phase out poaching from Uganda?
Phasing out poaching in Uganda, I must say that at the moment, it is impossible to completely reduce, phase it out, stop it. But we are working extremely hard to ensure that the numbers go down. And except for this period of COVID, when we have more people in the villages, we had actually been systematically reducing the amount of poaching. And we believe now that people are aware that we are not sleeping, the numbers will go down again. Because they came in, they thought we were also in lockdown, but we never went for lockdown. We are still operating.
Mr. Mwanda, it sounds like you're accepting defeat for a
moment.
I'm
not.
There.
No, I'm not. What I'm saying, let me tell you, if you went to the US, if you went to Europe, that's where most of us think everything is in order.
Yes.
They still have poachers. They still arrest them. They still charge them before courts of law. But the issue is, what are we doing vis-a-vis the wildlife population?
Yes.
What I can assure you, in the last 30 years, the population of wildlife in Uganda has been on the increase. The elephants that were about 2,000 in 1985 are now about 6,000. That is an increase. And I can say that for Uganda kob, I can say that for the eland, I can say that for a lot of other species. That shows that the number of animals being killed is far less than that being born. And that points to a good job that Uganda Wildlife Authority is doing. Yes.
Mr. Mwanda, what hasn't government done that you think or believe should be done to counter the illegal, illicit wildlife trade?
Government has already done a lot of work. At the moment, we have formed a National Wildlife Crime Task Force, which actually is a task force that has Uganda Police, UWA, it has Uganda Police, it has UPDF, it has several other agencies that are related to security and crime. We are working together to try and address this. And for example, last month or a month before, we recovered 4 guns in the districts of Oyamo and Noya from guys who are doing poaching in Murchison Falls, because we are working together as a team. And so this is extremely important for us as we work together and coordinate and share intelligence and, you know, do joint operations. These will continue and are continuing, and we've seen that we are reducing the impact of the poachers because we are reducing their effectiveness, especially when you remove the gun, because the gun is the thing that helps them to get into the parks with confidence. Now we are reducing the guns in the communities, and that will definitely reduce. And that is what government is doing. We are not sitting.
Of course, we noticed that so many very, very stringent wildlife protection laws were passed last year. What are you doing to implement those laws or government policies to ensure that we protect wildlife?
This gentleman, Felix, and his friend Evarist and their cohorts are going to be charged according to Uganda Wildlife Act 2019. And they could easily get life imprisonment.
Or so $5.4 million, or a fine?
Fine is 20 billion Uganda shillings, maximum, which I don't think they can afford. So it means they will languish in prison for life. That is the maximum. So, and I can assure you that there are several other people who have been charged and convicted based on this law. And I think there's somebody who killed a giraffe in Murchison Falls who was given, I think, 7 years in prison. So we are using those, working with the office of the public prosecution to ensure that everybody we arrest goes through and is charged according to that law, and there are stiffer sentences, and we are confident that in 1-2 years the poaching will go down as people feel the bite of getting into prison for longer.
It seems like Felix Byamukama and his friend Evariste were not feeling the bite at all. I mean, they knew there is a bounty of a fine of over $5.4 million, but they still continue with their activities until they were caught. Could it be that there is a poor implementation of these laws, or could it be that the policies themselves aren't strong enough to deter poaching?
There is 2 things. There could be ignorance, that these guys were not aware what the implications were, but it could also be just that they didn't care and just thought they will keep running away, because this wasn't the first time they were in the park.
Indeed.
And so they think they are clever enough to avoid being caught. And so as we show that actually the law is biting, more people become aware, and now this is something that we will be working on. But also, on our part, we are working to ensure that we create awareness. So in all these parks now, our staff are going to the radio stations around there and to meetings when COVID is not there to actually tell people, this is the new law, this is what it means. You get caught, this is how you suffer. Please, let's work together to protect this wildlife because it supports us. And we have other schemes like revenue sharing, where 20% of gate entrance fees is shared with the communities. Previously, it was mismanaged. The new law provides that we give it as a grant. We have a bit more control over that money, and we should be able to create more awareness with that resource.
And Mr. Mwanda, of course, one person right now is wondering what it will take for private sector actors to work hand in hand with UWA to phase out poaching at this point in time. But then, before I get into that conversation, you did mention that it was not the first time Mr. Felix and Evariste made their way into Bwindi Impenetrable National Park. Does that mean that if Rafiki had not died, we would never, ever have apprehended these criminals?
No, we actually do apprehend criminals in all our parks, but you don't catch them all the time. You know, sometimes they get out before you know they're there.
Because they've been killing smaller animals.
Yes,
so
yes.
it seems like it wasn't a problem for the rangers.
No,
but
no,
now that Rafiki was killed, that's when they sprang into action.
No, that's not correct. Because we've arrested many people, even in Bwindi, for killing dikers and the wild hogs. We have been arresting them. I think over the last 3 months, we should have 3 or 4 different arrests of people we've found in the park while they are poaching. So we already working on this, and this is not the only place. Actually, in a year, our total number of people we arrest is in the range of 3,000 to 4,000 all over the country because of poaching. And we arrest them, we take them to court. So no, we are working.
Well, of course, let's talk about the issue of the private sector actors, like I hinted before. How can these private sector actors work hand in hand with Uganda Wildlife Authority to phase out poaching?
The private sector actors are mainly involved in bringing tourists to the parks, but also in providing accommodation and other services. And the way it works is that they get the visitors, they deliver them in the park, we provide the service, and then they take them out. Or they provide the accommodation in the park or on the borders of the park in their lodges, and then we get them out as well. And so together we need to work together to address poaching, and it is an issue of creating awareness. It is an issue of identifying vulnerable communities that are struggling with survival and providing support to them so that they do get off the issue of poaching and have a different livelihood that ensures that they're able to survive. So together we can work and ensure that we stamp out poaching.
Indeed. Final remarks, Mr. Samuel Mwanda, as we wrap up this conversation for the viewer.
For the viewer, I would like to appreciate you for, you know, tuning in and listening to us this morning.
And there would be poachers.
If you are a poacher, or you would be a poacher, and if you are, there are people, for example, in Kampala, who enjoy eating bushmeat. One, it might be a health problem, but 2, you're creating a situation that is putting the lives of my staff in danger, but also the lives of those communities who go poaching in danger. So I would like to urge you to resist. We are working on getting the population of wildlife up. When they are at the right level, we will allow official and formal hunting so that people can actually eat the wild meat. But for now, desist from eating wild meat because it might bring you health problems, or it will cause somebody to lose either their life or get into prison for a long time. But having said that, our parks that are accessible are now open. If you are Ugandan, or if you are somebody staying in Uganda and you don't have what to do this weekend, you could visit, for example, Maction Falls. That is It's not on the border, so you can easily visit there. You can visit Lake Imburo.
Literally, business is open for our local people here in Uganda.
Exactly.
But then, as we wrap up, Mr. Samuel Mwanda, yes, this one question that I've been itching to ask. Help me demystify this allegation that seems to indicate that the people that are engaged in poaching seem to be government officials. I wanted to end with that. Please demystify.
I think that poachers are from all colors.
Let's first demystify. Government officials being involved in poaching, yes or no?
Yes and no. Yes and no, because I'm saying it is a wide spectrum.
Yeah.
There are some government officials that are involved, not because they are government, but because they are criminals.
Okay.
Okay, so...
Rightly put, Mr. Samuel Mwanda. He is the Executive Director of Uganda Wildlife Authority. Many thanks for having made the time to speak to us. Now, before I wrap up the show today, let me just sample a few of our beautiful people who are celebrating their birthdays on the 15th of June, the year 2020. It's a beautiful Monday. I do have Smith Vibes, who says happy birthday to my grandmother. May she live longer. Indeed. I also have Bruno Carol, who says, Chobabide. Irene, happy birthday to you. Regan, Harriet Rin, happy birthday to you. Isabide Sam, whoever was born today, happy birthday. Sylvia Nakawesi also wishing herself a great birthday. And everyone, the kings, the queens, the boys and girls who are celebrating their birthdays on this particular Monday, the 15th of June, the year 2020. Have yourselves a joyous one. My name is Romeo Busiku. Let's interface again at 1 p.m. for another update of the day's developing stories. Have yourselves a blessed morning.